US Vice President JD Vance, wife Usha and their 3 children, Ewan, Vivek and Mirabel, landed at the Palam airbase in New Delhi this morning. Now, the family was received by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. While Vance was accorded the ceremonial guard of honor, Usha Vance watched on. Their children emerged from the plane, the boys in kurtas and Mirabel in a lehenga. Now, this is the first official visit to India. It's a visit by a US Vice President after 12 years. What's more, the US Vice President visited the Akshardham temple, after which he will also be going to Janpath for some shopping. He will meet PM Modi later in the day, with talks likely to focus on an early finalisation of the proposed bilateral trade pact and also ways to in fact bolster India-US ties. Meanwhile, NSA Ajit, Doval and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar are also expected to join the discussions. Now, the timing of JD Vance's India visit is very critical as it comes amid a global trade war after the US announced punishing reciprocal tariffs on several countries across the globe, and this also includes India. Meanwhile, my colleague Gauri Dwivedi joins me for more on this. For all our viewers joining in, US Vice President JD Vance and his wife Usha Vance and their 3 children, in fact, Ewan, Vivek and Mirabel, landed at New Delhi's Palam Air Base this morning. Now, the family was received by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. While Vance was accorded the ceremonial guard of honor, Usha Vance watched on. Their children, meanwhile, emerged from the plane, the boys in kurtas and Mirabel in a traditional Indian lehenga. Now, interestingly, this is not only Vance's family's first visit to India after him becoming the Vice President. This is, in fact, his first visit to India, an official visit by the US Vice President after 12 long years. The US Vice President also visited the Akshardham temple, after which he will also be going to Janpath for some shopping. For more on this, my colleague Gauri Dwivedi joins me. Gauri, the visit, interestingly, also coincides with the rapidly intensifying trade war between Washington and Beijing. And Vance is likely to deliver an address tomorrow in Jaipur, where he is also expected to make a policy statement. What are you picking up? What's the latest?
It's an important visit, Arjun. You rightly pointed out that it is happening in the shadow of the tariff war that President Trump has unleashed. Let's not forget, for India, there's a 90-day pause, and this pause is the window that India has to be able to really thrash out some sort of a trade deal. And reports suggest that a lot of progress has been made, and we may be inching towards a trade pact. And as we stand right now, the trade pact with the President Trump administration would possibly unlock a lot of other aspects of the bilateral relationship, which right now are moving ahead, but could probably be fastened even further. And I think that is the most important aspect. When Vice President Vance, who's of course, for him it's a semi-private visit, where he's also going to be in Jaipur and Agra in the next 2 days. He will be meeting Prime Minister Modi later in the evening, and when he does, he would be speaking and carrying forward the world view of President Trump, whether it is in terms of trade, whether it is in terms of engagement with the other leaders and in this region. So I think those are some of the other important parameters that one needs to keep in mind as one assesses the importance of Vice President Vance's visit. What could be the key highlights of this? I think my assessment, 3 areas could really stand out. India's concerns around immigration, that is likely to find feature in some of these talks. Second could be some progress on trade. And the third could also be, let's not forget, some talk around terrorism. Gurudwara Vandalized was extradited after the extradition took place after President Trump and Prime Minister Modi met this year. So that, I think, is also important aspect of how these talks could shape up in the evening.
Well, thank you so much for putting things into perspective for our viewers, Gauri. Staying with US and India, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has in fact said that New Delhi is aiming to wrap up the first phase of a trade pact with Washington by autumn this year. She is currently, in fact, on a 5-day visit to the US, where she will attend key IMF and even World Bank meetings and also meet US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, the push for a deal comes as India seeks to avoid new US tariffs and deepen trade ties under President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, India's chief trade negotiator Rajesh Agrawal will also visit Washington on the 23rd of April. Now, this as both sides try to finalize a deal within Trump's 90-day tariff freeze. Listen in, meanwhile, to what the Finance Minister Sitharaman had to say.
Even as I talk, I think the Vice President of the United States of America is in India. He will be engaging with the Prime Minister hopefully this evening or tomorrow. In between all this, the additional USTR had visited India to see the progress or to engage with the negotiating team who's dealing with the tariff-related negotiation and with the bilateral trade agreement that we want to sign. In fact, the progress of the agreement or the trade agreement that we are working on, at least a first tranche, is something which we hope to conclude positively by the fall this year.
Thousands of protesters rallied Saturday in New York, Washington and other cities around the United States for a second major round, in fact, of demonstrations against Donald Trump and his hardline policies. Now, many took aim at Trump's deportations of undocumented migrants. Protesters voiced concern that Trump was, in fact, threatening long-respected constitutional norms. Now, this also includes the right to due process. The chief organizer of Saturday's protests, the group 50501, a number representing 50 protests in 50 states and one movement, said some 400 demonstrations were, in fact, planned. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under fire once again, now this time reportedly for sharing sensitive Yemen war details in a second private signal chat. Now, the group included his wife, brother and personal lawyer. It's the second leak incident linked to Hegseth after journalist Jeffrey Goldberg was mistakenly added to a similar previous group. Now, these revelations come days after several senior Pentagon officials were fired over an internal leak probe. Critics, including top Democrats, are now demanding Hegseth's resignation. The White House, meanwhile, is backing him, blaming the leaks on so-called disgruntled ex-employees trying to, in fact, derail Donald Trump's defense agenda. Across the border, Canada has seen a record turnout on the first day of advance voting. Nearly 2 million voters showed up on Friday alone. This is according to Elections Canada, marking a 36% jump compared to 2021's early voting numbers. Now, for perspective, an agency responsible for administering Canadian federal elections and referendums, long queues were reported nationwide, with voters waiting up to 2 hours in some areas. Now, with just days to go before Election Day on the 28th of April, registered voters can very well cast their ballots early until the 21st of April. While it's unclear if the trend will reflect in overall turnout, officials have said that the numbers do show Canadians are highly engaged this election season. The Gurudwara in Canada's Vancouver has been defaced with pro-Khalistani graffiti. The Khalsa Diwan Society, which manages the Ross Street Gurudwara, confirmed that separatist slogans like Khalistan Zindabad were spray-painted on the temple walls. The incident occurred the same day as the massive Vaisakhi parade in nearby Surrey. Authorities have said that the Vancouver Police Department is investigating the matter. In a statement, the Gurudwara has meanwhile termed the act as an attempt by extremists to instill fear and division within the Sikh community in Canada. The Ross Street Gurudwara, established in 1906, had barred pro-Khalistani groups from participating in their Vaisakhi celebrations. My colleague Maha Siddiqui, meanwhile, brings us the latest on this.
The leaders of the Gurudwara say that this is being done by a small group of pro-Khalistan separatists who are indulging in intimidation tactics and also trying to create divisions within the Sikh community. And they say that this goes against not just the ethos of Sikhism, which calls upon inclusivity, but also the ethos of the Canadian society at large. And simultaneously, there was another incident that took place at the Lakshmi Narayan Temple in Surrey. Surrey is another city, but very close to Vancouver, about 50 minutes or 1 hour drive from Vancouver. And here again, hateful graffiti was seen painted at the Lakshmi Narayan temple building wall. And the leaders of the temple there have said that it is not a coincidence that both these have taken place on the same day. They've also linked it to the advanced polling of the election. And they've said that this should be investigated together, considering that these great hateful graffiti were painted both on the Gurudwara on Ross Street in Vancouver and at the Surrey Lakshmi Narayan temple. So they are linking both these incidents that took place. But yes, both of them have taken place either in Vancouver or close to Vancouver. The Vancouver Police Department, which is investigating the graffiti on the Gurudwara, have said so far they have not been able to apprehend any suspect. However, they are investigating the matter.
PM Modi is set to visit Saudi Arabia from the 22nd to the 23rd April at the invitation of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Now, this will be PM Modi's first visit to the kingdom in his third term. The trip is expected to boost India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council and expand ties in trade, defense, energy, and even technology. Saudi Arabia is India's fifth largest trading partner for perspective, with bilateral trade nearly hitting $43 billion in 2023-24 alone. Now, PM Modi's visit also comes as global attention focuses on West Asia amid ongoing regional tensions and high-level diplomacy, in fact, involving the US, Iran, and other players. In West Asia, the Israeli military has admitted to professional failures in an operation that killed 15 emergency workers, including 14 medics and a UN staffer in Gaza last month. In fact, an internal inquiry found operational misjudgments and a breach of orders as well. The deputy commander involved has been dismissed for an inaccurate report. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society has rejected these Israeli findings, terming them an attempt to in fact shift blame. The March 23rd strike drew international criticism, with the Red Cross calling it, or rather labeling it, unacceptable. The Israeli military on its part has said steps will be taken to avoid similar incidents in the future.